Not a word.
All right. All right.
Have you ever wished that you could go back in time, or wish that you had more time with your dad to ask him questions?
Yeah, absolutely. With my stepdad that I grew up with him, I pretty well know him, know what makes him tick, because he was a present male figure in my life.
Mm-hmm.
My natural father, not my stepdad, my father. Because I didn't meet him until I was 30. Yeah, I was 30 years old when I met my father. I mean, I take that back. I have vague memories of him from my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So, I knew him. My parents divorced when I was 4. I read something about a child's long-term memory doesn't develop until age 4 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like I remember stuff before the divorce, and I don't know if I remember stories or actual incidents. So that's hard to tell. But to answer your question, I absolutely wish that I had more time to sit and talk to him as an adult, man to man, to see what he did and where he came from, what made him tick, and
Things like that.
see what he did and what made him tick,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Yeah. I got this book for you a while back. Basically, it's just questions that a child would ask their father. And
What's the name of the book?
Dad, I want to hear your story.
And who came up with that?
Somebody who feels the same way you do, I suppose.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I thought there was an author or a publisher that you might want
I
to
didn't.
recognize on.
This one was written by, this Jeffrey Mason
Okay.
had the idea for it, I suppose, at least
Okay.
for this one. So what year were you born?
1960, February of 60.
Mm-hmm. What,
There's actually a video clip of my mom leaving the hospital with me in the snow.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's on a thumb drive around the house here someplace.
So in your childhood, how much do you remember about the economy, the government, things like that? Because some of these questions in here you've already answered, or I wrote down.
Your mom wrote down. I mean, that's the whole reason this video is because I don't write. I just don't write.
Yeah.
I can write. I'm fully capable of writing. I just
Don't.
I had ADD or ADHD or daydreamer or whatever it was classified as back when it wasn't classified, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, I went through school. I never gained an interest in reading. I know your mother and my mother both don't understand that concept. If I try to read, even if it's the Bible, and that's one of my downfalls in my walk of faith, even to read the Bible, I fall asleep. I can't. If I can pay attention to it long enough to start to consume it, I fall asleep. But more times than not, I get, our joke in the house about a squirrel. The economy.
Like one of the things in here.
Well, you see, here's what I know. In '60, I would only know what I've been told because I was born in Cabell Huntington Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
My father was sent a telegram because he was in the army in Germany at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
you had
so,
in here the U.S. entered Vietnam War. Google the.
well,
following
they
for the
entered the
year.
war in maybe officially in '60, but they had guys over there in the '50s.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the first troops were committed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Agnew, was it Agnew that did that? I have to think. I'd have to check my history on that.
Mm.
But yeah, they had you know, the spooks were over there,
Oh.
supposedly just training them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, whatever. There's too many stories come out since then about that. But yeah, okay, for the sake of this, we entered in
Sure.
1960.
Yeah.
Sure, whatever you want to say. And I probably looked that up when we were filling that out.
Mm.
But see what happened? Well, I was born, and then right after I was born, my mother and I flew to Germany to be with my father.
Mm-hmm.
And then we lived over there, and a German lady almost scalded me. Well, she did scald me, but I mean, it was almost, you know, a problem. But for a long time, I wouldn't take a warm bath after that because she turned on the water. She didn't realize how hot it was, and she set me down in it. And I can remember not wanting to take hot baths. I don't remember the incident about getting scalded.
Mm-hmm.
That's a memory of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I was obviously, if what that guy said about babies don't develop long-term memory until after 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
then at least at 4, if not longer than that, I wouldn't take a hot bath or a warm bath. It had to be cold because I was scared of it.
Mm.
But and then after that, we flew. He got reassigned to Texas. I think it was Hood. Not sure, but we flew home, and my mother and I, we flew commercial because that's the way they, you know, and the serviceman, he flew military transport.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother and I were on a TWA, Trans World Airlines. I don't even know if they're still around or not.
I had never heard of it.
TWA. We flew, and it was the first turbo. It was either the first turboprop or the first jet
Mm-hmm.
for commercial airline use, and they were doing a big expose in a magazine called Life magazine. And about this new airplane, right? Mm-hmm. And the reporter and the photographer came up and asked your gran if they could take a picture of her holding me exiting the plane, touting that it was so quiet that a baby would sleep. Because I slept most of the flight coming home. We landed at Tri-State Airport, and they got everything set up. My mom stood up to walk the door, and I started crying, throwing a fit. So, no picture in life. So then we went to Houston, or Hood, and I think it was Hood. And then we from there, we went to Florida. And I believe that there was trips. I don't think my mother and I ever went like from whatever post in Germany to Fort Hood. Mm-hmm. We always went to West Virginia first for my mama to see her mama. Mm-hmm. Okay. And
during those times, like all those moves, in here it's written like one of the few popular television shows. We got Batman, Lost in Space, Gilligan's Island, and Car 54.
Well, those are shows that I watched growing up, coming up.
Did you ever watch them, while you were in Hood, Florida, wherever?
Oh, no, I was too young. Like I was saying about the 4 years old.
Yeah.
I remember being pulled out in a you know what a Zodiac is? A Zodiac boat. It has
yeah,
Zodiac.
Yeah.
Okay, but it wasn't a Zodiac. It was shaped like a Zodiac, but it had a back was blown up too, and it was a child's boat, raft, whatever.
Yeah.
And my father took me out on the ocean, and my mother didn't like that. My father was saying, "Look, going out here, I'll show you there's nothing to be scared of." My mom was like, "Oh, he's baby, you know." So anyway, there was disagreements on how to raise me, and my mama called her mama, and her mama, and her brother and her sister drove from West Virginia to pick us up and take us back to West Virginia because they had differences in how to raise me. Now, I went back to a home that had my mother, a 18-year-old aunt, a 40-some-year-old grandmother, and I don't know how old Mom was. She was in her late 60s or 70s. That was my great-grandmother. So I went back to this house of females where it's all huggy, cuddly, lovey, touchy. Right? And that's where my memories really start, is living on 4th Street in Nana's house as a child. The only other memory I have before that I know is an honest memory is the memory of him taking me out
in that boat.
In that boat.
Was there anything to be scared of?
Matter of fact, the memory was of me being in a boat on water. I didn't know it was the ocean until my mom told me the story. I said, "Was I in a little red and white?" She goes, "Yes." And okay. So I didn't even really remember that it was the ocean.
Evidently, there wasn't anything to be scared of.
I lived. I made it through it. So that's how. When you make it through there, it's a good sign that it wasn't dangerous.
You got in here. What are the prices for the following items? A loaf of bread, 23 cents.
Yeah.
What is it now? I think Wonder Bread. It's like one of the cheaper bread options, and that's almost like $2, isn't it?
I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask your mother. I don't shop. I don't do the shopping. And when I do shop, I don't look at the prices. I go get what she tells me to buy.
You ready for this one?
What's that?
A gallon of gas.
A gallon of gas was probably, in 1960, was probably 16 cents?
31.
31 cents?
31 cents for a gallon of gas.
Now, I do know.
$3 now. More.
Well, it's more than that in some places. 3 plus a gallon. I remember in 1976 when I started driving, I could take $1, get gasoline to drive the local drag all night long.
Yeah.
And 2 packs of cigarettes for $1.
Let's see. There's a pack of cigarettes in here. Yeah. 26 cents.
You get 2 packs of cigarettes for 52 cents, and then you get 48 cents worth of gas, which is over a gallon, and you could ride up and down 5th and 3rd Avenue all night long smoking cigarettes like you was king.
just cruising the strip.
Cruising. And you know where I got the $1? Saved it for my lunch money.
Oh.
I just didn't eat lunch.
The average cost of a new home. Now, how about the house that you and Mom live in now?
This is a modest 3-bedroom, 1-bath.
1.5.
1-bath home. Then they turned the garage into a den and added a half bath.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then they added a separate 2-car garage.
Yeah.
And then they connected the roof between the garage and the house to make a breezeway. Mm-hmm. and then they put sliding doors on each end of the breezeway.
Mm-hmm.
So from when you walk down the street and look at this house, it's long.
Yeah.
It's long.
Yeah, it is a long
But it
house.
started out as a modest starter home,
Yeah.
3-bedroom, one bath. And
Single
in this
family home.
this neighborhood is well, let me put it this way. This is a strange neighborhood. Because across the street from me, and I mean directly across the street, there's what residents in this area call the flood wall. This part of it wasn't constructed by the Corps of Engineers. This part was natural.
Yeah.
But the man that founded the city, his house stood where Hospice House is.
Okay.
Okay? And then this house over here is a house that he moved into later when they found his son had committed suicide in that house.
Mm-hmm.
So all across the street over here, there's these the Hospice House is there now. That house is gone. And then there was 2 lots that was sold later on that are the same type of house this is. And then the Collis v. Huntington second home. And then from there all the way up to the hospitals, it's mostly doctors on that side,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a view of the river. But on this side, it's what I would call a upper middle class neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Not upper middle class. Now, when I say that, I don't consider myself upper middle class. I consider myself middle to lower middle class.
Yeah.
But this neighborhood is that, and your mother and I were just fortunate enough that we were able to get in this home from other homes that we had equity in, and some inheritance money, and and right now this house is probably, with the way the housing market is now, maybe 220, maybe. I mean, I'm not selling, so
Yeah.
maybe. And if it's 220, you put it on the market, you probably walk away with, 200 by the time you pay fees, taxes,
closing,
and all that
stuff,
crap. And you walk away at 200, and if you do that, then for the length of time we've lived here, the appreciation has been good. But we're not going to sell, so that's that'll be something you and your brother can worry about.
In here, average cost of a new home,
Then 20,
12.
12.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that's 20. Yeah. Well, shoot, nowadays it's nothing. You can go to a car dealership and they'll with a straight face stand there and tell you they want $80,000 or $100,000 for a pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
My response has always been, buddy, my first house didn't cost but $50,000,
Mm-hmm.
and it had a bathroom.
Yeah.
See no commode or shower in this thing. It's crazy what they want for stuff anymore.
I already know the answer to this question is yes, because I've heard stories. But for the sake of this, I think one of my favorite ones. The question is, did you ever skip school?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
At one point or another, who hasn't?
You never skipped school.
I took
Not that I know of.
I took senior skip day, the one that they
Senior
allowed.
skip day, nah,
Yeah, that doesn't count.
amateur.
Yeah, that doesn't count. But one of my favorite stories about you skipping school was and I think you must have been in high school probably, where you left school.
I didn't really skip at Kamak.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's called middle school, we call it junior high.
Yeah.
I guess you could have. It would have been pretty easy to skip at Kamak, but I guess everybody was just worried about the way the the roll was taken.
Yeah.
And they didn't want. But when I was in junior high school, you could leave campus for lunch. They had like gut trucks that would come, and you could leave campus to go to the gut truck, or the little local drugstore had a little takeout window. You could go down there, go to the restaurant Cam's Ham here in Huntington
Yeah.
for lunch. Then when you got in high school, you had a car. You could drive anywhere you wanted at lunchtime.
I'm referring to the time where you left with some of your friends to go and drink beer, and that's where Bob, your stepdad, found you and pulled you out from behind the fridge.
Yeah. I was.
It's one of my favorites.
Okay, well here's the, because of the video, I'll say this part. Because of when my birthday is and when the school year starts, I was one of the first people in my age group to get a driver's license. And I had a car that was waiting on me just to get a driver's license. And so what would happen is I'd pull up to school in the car, and when my buddies would come and run and get the car, and we'd sit there and have a cigarette and stay warm with the heater, or have the windows down and holler at people walking by, whatever he's doing. And then we'd sit there and say, man, we're late for homeroom. That's all right. We'll skip homeroom. We'll just go to the first period. Well, before first period was over, we were driving off. And, and this was like almost a daily occurrence. Almost a daily occurrence. And so this one day, they said, come on, man, let's skip. It's nice, skipping day. I'm already parked right here in front of the school, and they're, watching. And no, we'll take so-and-so's car. I don't even know who it was now. I don't even know whose car it was now. And so I said, all right, well, let's go, Well, the thing was, we were going to get some, we were just going to go party a little bit.
On a school day, midday.
No, it was the first thing in the morning. It's like before homeroom bell. And so we went down to the liquor store, and we found out the liquor store wasn't open that early.
No, there's no parties going on that early either.
No, we didn't know that. And so the convenience store was open, and they sold beer. And so there was 3 in the front, 3 in the back.
3 seats in the car.
3 guys.
Oh, okay.
3 in the front, 3 in the back.
Uh-huh.
This is an old land yacht, big road barge.
Yeah.
4-door, couch with wheels. And it wasn't even, I can't even claim it was cool. It was like, it was like a granny car, It wasn't like it was a low rider or something.
Yeah.
This is just, granny's car.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we go and get beer. We're passing, we bought a quart of beer.
A quart of beer?
A quart. Yeah, well, I don't even know if they still sell them, but they used to sell quart bottles of beer. Okay.
You're talking like Miller High Life, where they're about that.
No, not
big.
no, like not.
You're talking more like a
this
bootleg.
big around.
Yeah.
And they were like this tall.
No.
They were a quart. It was a quart of beer, and you could go buy a quart of beer. Instead of buying a 6-pack and getting, would you get a quart and a half or maybe 2 quarts? I don't know what all the fluid ounces come up to.
Yeah.
But back then, you could go and buy a quart of beer, of any brand of beer you wanted. Not talking about the little Miller Ponies or a regular size
Miller High Life or
6-pack.
whatever.
This is one bottle with a quart, almost like a 2-liter bottle pop of beer.
Okay.
With a screw top.
Yeah.
So they went and bought a couple of those days, passed around the car, and we were going to drive around and drink the beer until the liquor store opened. Well, we was passing around, and I took a swig of the beer and passed it on, and one of the guys up in the front seat, I didn't know who he was. I mean, not that I don't remember who he was, I don't even know who the guy was.
Yeah.
Right? And so he said, he knew me. He goes, Perry? Drink it all? Dude, I just took a swig. What the hell? And so we do that. We drive around and mess around, whatever. Liquor store opens. We go, and I think it was vodka. It was vodka or tequila. So It was some white liquor. I don't know what it was. And so we're passing that around, driving around, passing that around. No chaser, just passing around, throwing. We're men.
Taking shots of
we're
vodka.
Men, And so the smart up front, he goes, "But you won't swig out like you did that beer. By God, hand me the bottle. My name's Perry. Don't tell me I won't do something."
Yeah.
And so I turned that bottle up and gave it a couple burps, and
Whew.
I wasn't gonna let him do it though. I was sitting there, I dared my eyes to water. No. Yeah.
As your chest catches fire.
Just suck it up, buddy.
Yeah.
And I was gonna let that prick know. Well, turns up that I'm 100 and at that time maybe 130, 135. And gosh, I think that's about half. It's a little more than half of what I weigh now. And so I wound up drunk. I mean, you
I bet. You had,
And,
let's see, that quarter beer that's split
this
between
all
you.
happened, This all happened before lunch. This
What day was this, like a Tuesday or something like that?
Yeah, this is a weekday.
Drunk on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah. And if there's one class I liked, was TV production and woodshop. And I know I won't go to TV production because the TV production teacher, she was like out there. I mean, I just enjoyed the class, but she was like, it was like a class.
Yeah.
Woodshop, which they don't have in schools anymore, was actually a woodworker's shop set up inside a room in the school.
Yeah.
I loved that shop. I loved going to shop. And so I was going to go to shop in the afternoon. Because my afternoons were wood shop, and then I didn't have a last period. And so we went back to school, and the way alcohol works is it's a bell curve. You drink, you get you continue to get drunk as you metabolize the alcohol after you stop drinking until you level out, and then you start back down to the side. I was on the way up.
You weren't even at the peak yet.
I didn't even peak at this point. And so I'm out there and I'm acting like I'm working on the lathe. I'm on a wood shop, by God, raising shit and running my mouth, and because at that time at high school, when it was lunch at my high school, there was two sets of staircases that went up to a type of balcony, and that was actually the first floor. And underneath that, there was an archway that you could drive a car under, and then to go through the front, there's an archway you could walk and go through the basement doors. And then there was a big patio where those stairs landed, and then like 4 more stairs before you got to the city street. And then there's the big wide retail or commercial size sidewalk in front of the school, and then a 4-lane road called 8th Street, and then a grocery store, game room, pool hall, and stuff in this building across the street. And so at lunchtime, everybody would come out of the school, and
go hang out in the
we didn't have
pool
air
hall.
conditioners.
Yeah.
Coming out of that school, and there was a convenience store and a bakery, and everybody come out. So I'm out there in the alleyway right across the school. I'm staggering around and
Drunk,
running my mouth drunk. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but it was one of the guys that was a friend of, quote unquote, friend of mine, that he went and told the principal what was going on. Well, in the meantime, those guys realized they better do something to me because my ass was going to woodshop. And so they took me up and to Benny's. And Benny, and I say this only for this, because typically when I tell a story, I don't make reference to where he comes from, what his religion is, what his political views are, what color of his skin. I don't make reference to that unless it has bearing on the story. And in this story, it has bearing. Benny was black. This is 1976. And he was shacking up, which is living with, not married to, a white woman in a garage apartment just down the alley from the school.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Benny was cool.
Yeah.
Benny wasn't in high school. Benny was out of high school. He's like in his 20s.
Too cool for school kind of thing.
Yeah. And so they're going to take me down to Benny's and hide me. Well, there's 3 or 4 of us. I don't know. But we're in there hanging out in Benny's.
Yeah.
You know, having a good time. And we hear a knock on the door. And Benny's old lady answers or looks at the door and says, "Oh my God, it's Big John." And that's what they called the principal at the high school was Big John.
Yeah.
Because his name was John. Oh, I forgot his last name. That's how much I cared about the man.
Big John.
Big John. And so she's, "Oh, it's Big John. Everybody hide." And hide. You're in a garage apartment. You know. What the hell? Hide. So I was drunk. I hid behind the refrigerator. Now,
did you like pull it out from the wall and climb behind it, or was there enough space?
No, it's worse than that. One of the guys jumped behind the couch, which caused the couch to scoot out from behind the wall.
Yeah.
Because we're in when I say garage apartment, some people might not understand what a garage apartment is. It's an apartment that's over top of a residential garage.
It's basically a studio apartment, isn't it?
Well, it's usually a 2-car garage, and it's a living room, a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, there's walls, and
okay,
you know, but you know, that's it. Now, for the refrigerator, because there's so little really space or wall space, when you'd walk in to the living room, and immediately to the left was the kitchen, and then behind when you walk through the living room, you go to the bedroom, and then behind the kitchen was the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was the layout. Well, hide. So I run into the kitchen, and right inside the kitchen, to the right of the kitchen, is the refrigerator.
Okay.
And in the old days, and this refrigerator predates.
We're talking like 1970? You said 1976.
This is 76, and this refrigerator is probably a 66 or earlier.
Yeah.
It had the cooling fins on the outside of it.
Okay.
And they would collect dust, and you'd have to vacuum things off to get it to
cool properly.
To cool the food properly. So it stood proud of the wall. Mm-hmm. And most of the time you didn't notice that because it was slid back in some cabinets or in a corner or something. Well, in this particular garage apartment, it was right by the door. So when you walked in, there was a space. So I went and slid in that space. Pretty good to me. Who's going to look behind the refrigerator?
When it's standing 3 feet out from the wall.
Pretty good for drunk me. And Benny had 2 Dobermans. Mm-hmm. Benny wasn't home, but people knew who Benny was because Benny was a black man.
Yeah. And
he was shacking up the white one. Well, I don't know what happened outside the door, but somebody hollered, "It's Jack's dad." And I heard thumping on the door, right? Well, she opens the door and she's going to hide us, right? She's going to play it off, right? And I don't know what Bob said to her, my stepdad Bob. I don't know what he said to her, but he said it in a voice such that one of the dogs lunged towards him. Mm. And he grabbed the dog by the throat and threw it off the porch of the garage apartment.
Oh.
And he says, "Where's my son?" And came in and grabbed me from behind the refrigerator and jacked me up like I was a rag doll and walked me out of the apartment, down the stairs, down the alley to his car that had a manual transmission in it. Parked right in front of the school at the end of lunchtime. Mm-hmm. And he was telling Big John about, "Sorry we had to meet this way. Yes, Mr. Perry, I believe you, because I'll take care of this. Don't you worry about it. Blah, blah, blah," right?
Dad tells the principal, "I'll take care of it."
So he opens the car door and puts me in the car
Places you gently.
This was a Vega GT.
Okay.
It was a Chevy Vega, and a lot of people remember Vegas as being junk cars. But this was one of the. A lot of people go, "Was it a Cosworth?" No, this was pre-Cosworth, but instead of the aluminum block, it had an iron block, and it was a pretty fast little car. It was a pretty good little car. It had a manual transmission in it. So we start going on. Well, this is where I find out a friend of mine, John Cox. He went and told Big John where I was at and that I was drunk. And there were some other people up there with me, and he gave Big John my phone number. I mean, it's not like Big John didn't have it, but he said, "This is Jack Perry. Here's his phone number. You can call his dad." I mean, he just ratted me straight out. So
Friend of yours, huh?
Anyway, we're on the way home, and let's see, he went down 10th Avenue, and there's a stop light we lived at 3rd West, the school was on 8th East. There was a stoplight at 5th Street and a stop sign at 1st Street, and a right-hand turn at 2nd Street, and then a left-hand turn at the 9.5 alley before arriving at home. And I say that because when we took off from the school and he came out of 1st into 2nd, came out of 2nd
Was
to
it
3rd. Somehow he managed to hit me again, and when he hit 4th, again, and this is every time he changed gears all the way home. Oh, yeah. So every time he stop sign,
Yeah.
stop light,
Stop and start at first again.
you know, brick streets, have to slow down and hit 3rd because it's too bumpy. 2nd Street, downshift, make the turn, you know, the whole deal.
You say he hit you. Is that like he swung and hit, or was there he hauled off and?
No, he was purposely,
I know he's hitting you,
yeah.
but was it like his hand left the gear selector and reached up and smacked you, or did it leave, come back, and?
No, he left off the gear selector.
Okay.
But he was a firefighter who hung sheetrock on his off days.
It didn't matter where he started
It didn't matter
from.
where he started playing. It didn't matter. And so I can remember on the way home, and I don't remember now. I'm in my 60s now, and to this day, I cannot remember whether I thought or said that, you know, this shit, I can feel this shit, because I was so drunk. So if I said it, he probably was going to make sure I felt it.
Yeah. Just
So
start
we get
hitting it
home,
harder.
and he shuts it off, and our house was on the corner of the street and an alley. And in this town, they have alleyways that run parallel to the avenues as fire breaks. And we lived on the corner of the alley with a street address instead of living on an avenue where the front of the house was the avenue and the back of the house was the alley. So we pulled in beside there, and the neighbors were the alleyway ended there at 3rd Street, and the neighbors across the street, they were out on their porch. They were always out on their porch. And he looked at me and he said, "So help me God," he said, "you're gonna get out of this car and walk in that house more sober than you've ever been in your damn life. Do you understand me?" He goes, "You don't, I'll beat your ass." Oh, okay. So
Rojo.
I got out of the car, fell right on my face. So we got in, and Gran, she started doing the hammer hitting me thing.
Your mom.
Yeah, on my shoulder and my back, all the way to the stairs. My room was in the attic, and all the way to the bottom of the stairs. And I forget which order it was in, but at the bottom of the stairs, I was told, "You'll come down and you'll eat dinner and you'll be sober when you do."
Yeah.
And Mom asked me a question, and I didn't answer the question. And
You got hit again.
Bob had his keys in between his fingers.
Uh-huh.
I think it was like sort of a habit because he was a pretty rough guy.
Yeah.
I think it was a habit that he just kept his keys when he held them like that.
Yeah.
And he swung and hit me. I still got, at 64 years old, I still got the scar where he drove that car key into my stomach. Said, you answer your mom or I'll beat your oh, that ain't a beat. I ain't a beat. And, it was all about you embarrassed the family and, you've been kids skipping school and blah, 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 blah. You want me to talk about dinner?
You can't. I gotta get the power cord real quick. Hang on. You can talk about dinner if you want to. When you came down,
Yeah, I was called for dinner and
still drunk.
still drunk. And our dining room was such that it was bought. The dining room furniture was bought as a set. It was a chair, table, chairs. What was there? 6 chairs, a big table, a hutch, a buffet. I mean, it was your 1970s suit. They called them dining room suits.
Yeah.
So we sat down at the dinner table, and I always sat to Bob's left.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we served up the food, and man, I didn't want to eat. And I was already told I was going to have to clean my plate, but there wasn't going to be much of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he started in on me, and he said, look, my God, I know who bought it, so you might as well go on and tell me.
The beer, the alcohol.
Yeah.
Uh.
Did you hear the statement he said? I remember it. It cost me. I remember that statement. He said, I know who bought it for you, so you might as well go ahead and tell me.
Okay.
Even in a drunken stupor, about to vomit from the smell of food, I process that like this. If you know, why do I have to tell you?
Is that one of those ones where you weren't sure if you thought it or said it?
No, I said it that time.
Oh.
Yeah. And before I knew it, I was tipped back in the chair looking up at the ceiling. And yeah, so I wasn't allowed to hang out with John Plyman or Jeff Farrar. Those are the 2 guys I knew.
Yeah.
And the other guys that were driving, I didn't know them.
Bob knew him, evidently.
Oh yeah, he knew because I was thinking, we went in and bought it. I went in and bought the beer.
Yeah.
And one of them guys went in and bought the liquor.
Yeah.
Because he knew the guy that ran the liquor store.
Yeah.
So it's not like there was some guy waiting on the corner.
Some big secret
and
or something like
that. A drug deal for him to go get us some alcohol or something. It wasn't like that. We just went and got it ourselves. because my voice has always been deeper than my age. Until recently.
Yeah.
They always sent me in because storekeepers always thought that I was 18 years old, which was legal age when I was growing up. Was legal age was 18. So, I'd go in at 15, 16 years old, and I'd never get carded.
That must have been nice.
No, because everybody that knew you could do that wanted you to do that for them.
So you were the
It's
air
like,
boy.
look, dude, I can't keep going in the beer store, 6 or 7 times on a Friday night. They're going to get a little suspicious.
Yeah. There's no way somebody your size is drinking that much.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that was that story.
Grief.
What's wrong?
Since we moved the piano, the cameras moved. So for a while, I was about a foot shorter than you, and then I was 3 feet shorter than you, and then I was 5 feet taller. Oh, well.
Oh, well. You can adjust it and post it.
Yeah. What I remember you also telling me a story about a time that you hit Bob. Like you hit him in the face.
Hit him in the jaw.
What was that? Like, what's the story? What led up to that? And what was the
I
consequences of
don't
that?
know what the confrontation was that time.
Uh-huh.
But I was 14 years old. And Bob had always preached, when you think you're big enough that you don't have to listen to me anymore, swing, big boy, and I'll show you what ass whipping is. And at 14, I thought I had reached that
Oh,
threshold.
you're 14.
14 years old.
I can take on the old man.
He was, let's see, if I was 14, he was 33,
Yeah.
33, 34 years old, around that age. And like I said, he was a firefighter that on his off days hung sheetrock.
Yeah.
He didn't have that.
It's all just shoulder.
Yeah, just, from his ears to shoulder.
Yeah.
And he had a chest and upper body so thick that when you'd hug him, you couldn't touch.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't fat.
Yeah.
He was not fat.
Just stocky.
Thick.
Yeah.
He's a thick boy. And
Makes sense now.
he could lift a piece of 4 foot tall, 12 foot long, 1/2 inch thick sheetrock.
He could pick a Doberman up and throw it.
He would pick that rock up with one hand.
Yeah.
On the top, palm it, and pick it up, and grab it by the other hand and run that thing up the studs in a house and seat it against the ceiling. And he'd seat that thing so hard that if you were upstairs sleeping, you'd feel the house shake. That's how much power. All his brothers were like that. All of them were like that.
How often did he break sheets of plywood doing that?
One plywood is sheetrock. And
sheetrock.
He didn't break it. What he was doing was he'd set his nails, like he'd stick his nails through the paper, right? And he had a drywall hatchet.
Yeah.
And he'd run his hand on it like this. He'd take that hand and go, bam, up into the ceiling, so that it was good and tight. And if there was any unevenness in the house, it wasn't going to show because that sheetrock was going to be jammed up in there. And then he'd take that hammer and he'd hit a couple nails, drive nails in, hold the sheet there, and then he'd nail the rest of the sheet off. That's the way all of them did. You hang the ceiling, then you hang the walls, and you make sure it's up there tight.
So he had the arm strength, the shoulder strength.
He was thick, and I was 14, and I don't remember what it was.
Whatever it was, felt big enough.
I was tired of his shit.
Yeah, you felt big enough. I ain't got to listen to you.
Yeah.
At 14.
And I knew what the rule was.
Yeah.
When I thought I didn't have to listen to him, swing.
Yeah.
All right, this is my shot. I walked up and I swung. He didn't move his head. I mean, look, I was 14. No, I was 15 when I did that.
That makes a difference.
I was 15 years old because I'd already been hanging rock and hard carrying with him and his brothers for a while. And all summer I worked with them. So I wasn't no slouch. I mean, I was expected to carry buckets of mud, expected to hold my end of ceiling rock up.
Yeah.
I mean, for 14, 15, right around there, they loved it when I was on the wrestling team, put it that way.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to a gym. So, I felt pretty good about myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd had guys in the locker room gym go, Perry, because, I always wore baggy T-shirts.
Yeah.
And, by God, I don't have to listen to his shit anymore. And so, I don't know, strolled, sauntered, charged.
Meandered.
I don't know what I did. Sauntered, maybe.
Yeah.
Up and decided to unload on him. When I unloaded on him, he didn't move his head.
So, I mean, this is one where you had one pulled back.
I was cocked.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole right hook.
Nothing. He just
nothing.
ate it.
And right then I said, son. And
you know what?
So I decided in my infinite wisdom of being an escape expert,
Uh-huh.
that I would pull the Bugs Bunny run around the table trick.
Okay. So
That's when the bad guys chase you
Yeah.
and you keep running around the table.
Yeah.
And he stops and you stop. You go this way and go that
Yeah.
way, you know. And he can't get you because the table's in the middle. And
Yeah, you can't break the table.
Yeah. Well, no. When the man chasing you owns the table, he can do whatever he wants with that table.
Like what?
We
Just
made
slide
one
it out of
lap.
the way?
We made one lap and he came across it.
Yeah.
And so I started making for the back door,
Ooh.
and I had my fingertips on the door handle. And he got me. He nailed me down. And he taught me what an ass whipping was that day.
Mm.
And mom said, you're going to hurt him. Stop.
Yeah.
Hurt him. I'm going to kill the little son of a thinks he can hit me.
He told you.
I told him I made the choice. You know, and that's the way he saw it. And, you know, and later in life I realized, well, I made the choice. He didn't, I mean, it wasn't like he snuck up on me in the dark of night in my bedroom and just decided to beat my ass. Every time that man hit me, I made a conscious choice to do something I knew wasn't right, and I paid for it. And he was probably wondering, I keep beating this kid, he keeps doing stupid shit. I mean, I'm sure I could almost see him sitting down at the bar drinking, telling one of his buddies, you know, I got this boy at home. I beat his ass and he's still, you know.
Not getting it.
I don't know. I mean, that's like, I guess that he and his brothers had a little bit of pride in the honoriness of their children, because there's always the deer hunting story, which is, we went deer hunting, and on the first night of deer hunting, all the men go into town.
Okay.
Okay, because we rent a cabin.
Opening night of deer season.
Yeah, they go into town, which makes no sense. Next day's opening day, and you're going to be hungover, and you know. But whatever, I don't know. Maybe you're going to stay up all night and go in the woods drunk. I'm not judgy. Okay,
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
I'm not a deer hunter.
We told them, you know, we were young boys. We were allowed to go 13 years old, I think it was. We were allowed to go hunting with the men, because this is like a 4 or 5 day hunting trip.
Yeah.
With the men in the family
Down
on
the
the other
mountains.
side of the state, up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And so we told them, well, take us to town. No, y'all too young to go to town. You can't go to town. Yeah, we'll go to town. We'll go down there and shoot pool. We won't bother y'all. You know, you can drink, do whatever you want. We're
This
going
is
to
a
go
pool
to town.
hall across
They
the
said,
street.
you're not going to town. We said, well, I'll tell you what, by God. We're equal men, and we're paying equal share, because everybody had to pay, you know, 7 of you are going, you paid your 7th, no matter what your age was. Food, for the cabin, all of it, right? And we said, well, by God, you leave us here, we'll drink every drop of liquor you got. And my cousin's grandpa on his mama's side,
Okay.
he was with us, and he had a camper, and he had liquor in his camper, and the men had liquor at the kitchen in the cabin, and they went to town, and they didn't take us, and we stood good on our word.
Every bit of it.
Every bit, mixed it. Oh yeah,
Ugh.
oh yeah. Well, my cousin winds up getting sick.
Alcohol poisoning, probably.
And so I took him into the commode, and I knew I had to get him sobered up because the men was coming back. So if anybody knows anything about the guts on a toilet, there's a little tube, a little tiny rubber tube that comes out, and it goes down a big hard plastic tube.
Fills your bowl.
Well, that didn't fill your bowl. When you flush the commode, that water runs continuously, and that's the water that makes it swirl.
Okay.
The tank actually fills from the bottom.
Okay.
Okay? So, if you overflow the tank, it runs up and goes down that plastic tube.
Yeah.
Okay? So he was in there in the bathroom throwing up. I took the tank top off, and I pulled that hose out of the tube. And every time he got through throwing up, and he'd look up, and go, oh, I'd push the plunger down, which would start the water, and it'd shoot ice cold water out of that tube right in his face.
What'd you do that for? Was it?
Trying to sober him up, man. Come on, dude. I was hitting him with that water, man. And he'd swing, and I'd back go, oh, come on. So anyway, we hear him pulling up. Come on, get in bed, get in bed, get in bed. And so I put him in the bed and get him in his bed, you know. And I didn't like tuck him in, but I got him in there and go, get in bed. And I run in and get in bed, and men come in, he hauled them around, you know. They're drunk.
Yeah.
And talking about their escapades that night, I guess, I don't know. And all of a sudden, you hear a cussing fit coming out of the bedroom where James Madison's head's staying. Son of a bitch, he's puked all over the only bed sheets I got. I'll put his ass down there in the creek washing him. Son of a bitch. And the creek was froze.
Yeah.
And Menace had Teddy up, was going to take him to the creek. And his brother's going, now, Menace, hold on. Just calm down a little bit. And Bob was standing there in the bedroom where I was staying at in the doorway, half in the doorway and half in the living room.
Yeah.
And he said, you drink? Yes, sir. Did you puke? No, sir. Ah, Menace, my boy didn't puke. So that was the kind of relationship they had with each other. So when I got
You're
my
ready
ass
to
beat,
punk, man.
when I got my ass beat at high school that time, it wasn't because I was drinking.
It's good you skipped school.
It's because I skipped school.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out in a house that had a mixed couple in it.
Yeah.
That was the issue. It wasn't.
The alcohol.
It wasn't alcohol. No, because he was just proud as hell I didn't puke all over everything. And so yeah, but he was good. Menace was gonna put. He was gonna put my cousin down there and break the creek ice and wash the sheets. And they caught Connery Nelson. They all pulled together and got him some bed sheets to sleep on. But the next morning, guess where Teddy's ass is at? The creek. He cleaned them sheets.
What time of year was this? That had to have been like, what, February,
November.
March? November.
In November.
Oh.
In the mountains, up in Hardy County? Hardy County? I think it's where Camp went. It's up in the mountains. There wasn't snow, but the frost could have been snow because when you walked on it, it crunched and it never left all day. Mm-hmm. It stayed frozen all day.
It was just cold. There's no snow, it's just cold.
Oh yeah, it was the kind of cold that hurts your nose when you first walk outside. Mm. Yeah. And then the next year, they got a bigger place because one of the other brothers that lived up in Cleveland, it came down to meet him for hunting.
Yeah.
And they didn't go to town this year. They stayed at the cabin and drank. And they was down there hooping and hollering and carrying on. And I was in the bedroom, and my Uncle John, who came in from Cleveland, he was up there. And Uncle John, he had the same red hair and facial structure as the rest of them, but he had a big red handlebar mustache stuck out about this far. Mm. Proud as hell, that son of a bitch. And he was a white boxer shorts kind of guy from the Navy. Kept the same.
Okay.
You know, that's what I wear. And they were down there hooting, hollering, carrying on. And John got pissed because he couldn't sleep.
Okay.
So he whips the covers back, sits up in the bed, bare-chested, white boxer shorts, pulls on them cowboy boots, and goes down to the kitchen to tell his younger brothers to cease and desist. That it's late. It's time to go to bed. Mm-hmm.
Time to halt the festivities.
I come to hunt. Yeah. Right? So he comes, brotherly relationship. Let's see, there was John. Floyd didn't go that time. Menace, Bob, Charlie, Charlie's friend Doc, John's boy, me, and Teddy. And
Well, good morning.
and so we that's who was in the cabin.
Yeah.
And so you got a picture of this now in your mind, this mental picture of what John looked like. And he rounded the corner. It was going to fuss at his younger brothers who were drunk and tell them how they're being children and should stop drinking. Good. Well, they all bust out laughing at him. And of course, that was an insult to his authority.
Of course it was.
He got bent out of shape. He came back upstairs cussing and mumbling. So, finally, when everybody settled down and was going to go to sleep, he got up when everybody else was in bed. And he got up and he stood where he was like Bob was standing that other year, like he was sort of in the hallway, but he wasn't like all the way in the hallway, but he's more in the hallway than he was in our bedroom, but he wanted the people in our bedroom to hear it the same as the people in the bedroom down there. And he started in, and I don't remember all the words, but, you know, cuss word, by God this, by God that, I come to hunt, and I'm leaving, by God, I'm going to go home and practice up partying all year, and next year I'm going to party your all's ass into the ground. And he packed his shit and left that morning.
Oh.
Yeah. And they were like, John, now come.
Come on now, John. Don't be like that.
His ass went back to Cleveland. He wasn't fooling none of us. He wasn't studying none of that. And that's the year that I was going to take my share of my turnip cooking.
Yeah.
And we'd always go up and get a deer that would last us for the week while we were hunting to eat on while we were up there.
Yeah.
And I always heard him talk about you cook that venison, if you can't soak it, if you're just going to fry it up for breakfast, you cut it thin and cook it hot and quick. Before it's over, I had the whole cabin full of smoke. I stowed venison in there and I kicked the son. I was just trying to do my part.
Oh, y'all don't like the way I cook it? Go for it. Get McDonald's.
No, there were no McDonald's up there.
There was in Florida when I didn't want to eat that Wonder Bread.
Yeah, they went to McDonald's in, didn't they? Sure enough. Little girl, you needing a bottle, aren't you? Yes, I'll spit the bottle when I get up, Daddy. I don't know what your deal is. That was funny.